Shalom, shalom, shalom. Call hello Yahweh, Bahashem, Hamashiach, Malak Yahweh Shah, for giving me the spirit and power to do this lesson. Hey, so what we're going to touch on today, I had a few topics in mind. I was going to touch on how we make it to the kingdom of heaven, and I was going to deal with another thing, which was alms. Now, the reason why I'm touching on these topics, because we don't hear these topics a lot, right? And I'm about to show you how these two specific topics, like I said, is Matthew. We dealing with Matthew chapter 6 and 19 and 20, what Yahweh Shah Hamashiach spoke about. You know, we always got to touch on Yahweh Shah when we do a lesson. We always got to give the understanding of what Yahweh Shah said, because he said, I am the way, the truth, the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me, right? And then another topic is, I don't know if you knew or not, but did you know that alms delivereth you in the time of necessity? You know that alms can deliver you. Let's just stay right there because it's good. I want you to hear it. So first, let's just get straight into it. Matthew chapter 6 and 19, it says, lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. Now, we all know this. Living here in 2023, this is a wicked ass society. It's a wicked world, man. Nobody cares about nobody. You be wondering, let's say your house did get broken into, because this is what Yahweh Shah is speaking about. Your house being broken into and taking your goods. Your house would be broken into. You'd be looking for suspects, and it'd be the person that's sitting next to you. It'd be a close family member that was just in your house the other day. So this is what Yahweh Shah is warning you of. He says, man, don't store up treasures, right? Rubies, diamonds, gold, cash, goods. Now, he's not saying you can't do that, but don't set your mind on making that where all your treasure is, right? Because we have another place where we're supposed to store all our treasures, and we about to get where that is. We know it's the kingdom of heaven. But how do you store up treasures in the kingdom of heaven? How do you do that if we're having the kingdom of heaven is not here yet? That's a good question. How do you store up treasures in heaven if it's not here yet? Have you ever asked yourself that? So I'm going to read it again. Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through and steal. For whereas your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So let's get straight into how you lay up treasures in heaven. How do you do that if the kingdom of heaven is not here yet? Let's get it. So this is Sirach chapter 29 and 11. It says, lay up thy treasure according to the commandments of the Most High, and it shall bring thee more profit than gold. So you lay up treasures in heaven by simply keeping the law, statutes, and commandments. Simply. So this is how important keeping the commandments is. And I'm not talking about when you in front of people. I'm talking about when you behind closed doors also. Keeping the commandments is the most important. And you got to ask yourself, are you keeping the commandments of the Most High God? Are you storing up treasures in heaven? Because this is how you do it. Now, I got a precept for you, and this should help you. So Sirach chapter 3, 3 and 3, yeah. It says, whoso honoreth his father maketh an atonement for his sins, right? It says, and he that honoreth his mother is as one that layeth up treasure. So we just read in Sirach 29 and 11, it says you lay up treasures by keeping the commandments. Now we went to Sirach chapter 3, and this whole chapter, it teaches you how to honor your mother and your father. It teaches you the rewards of honoring your mother and your father, right? Because Yahweh Shah said when he returned, his reward is with him, which is your treasures. Now, this is talking about treasures as in slaves. This is talking about treasures as in land, right? Land masses. Yahweh Shah says, thou good and faithful servant, thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will give thee many things. I will make them ruler over many things, roughly paraphrasing. That's a beautiful thing to hear. And I'm pretty sure all of us want to hear that, right? So he says, whoso honoreth his father maketh an atonement for sins. This is how you wipe away sins, right? And what I was going to go into next is alms is another way on how you wipe away sins. All right, alms is and very, very important, but we living in 2023 where people are selfish, man. People want to receive, but they don't want to give out. Nobody wants to help nobody. And we're about to get into alms because you're not supposed to just help just anybody. And I'm gonna show you how. I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about in a second. But it says, and he that honoreth his mother is as one that layeth up treasure. Remember, Yahweh told you in Matthew 6 to store up treasures in heaven and work with me. I'm getting warmed up. So Yahweh says, store up treasures that's in heaven, right? And we're reading in Sirach 3 how you do that. He that honoreth his mother is as one that layeth up treasure. Now, this goes right back to the commandments in verse 3 and verse 4, because it says, honor thy father and honor thy mother, right? This goes back to the 5th commandment, right? And remember, in Matthew chapter 15, they was not honoring their mother and their father in word or in deed. That's what the Pharisees was doing. If you read Matthew chapter 15, let me show you. And this is how our righteousness exceed the righteousness of the Pharisees, right? Because there's 3 things that the Pharisees didn't have that, Lord willing, you do have. Straight up, man. And I'm going to get it in a second. But, matter of fact, let's just get it. So Matthew 15, and I'm going to start at 1, right? So he says, then came to Yahweh scribes and Pharisees, which were of Jerusalem, saying, why do the disciples transgress the tradition of the elders? For they wash not their hands when they eat bread. We know this was a major tradition in the nation of Israel in Jerusalem, right, at the time, right? They said he that did not wash his hands, he was known, or he was looked at as if he slept with a harlot. Some rabbi said it. I believe it's in a Talmud. But they said if you did not wash your hands before you ate, you was just as guilty as a man sleeping with a harlot, right? This is how serious it was, right? But it was traditions of the elders, and they thought you would be spiritually clean when you washed your hands. And like I said, man, every time I go into something, it's going to go left. But it says, hey, it's going to go right? Because whatever comes out, that's what needs to come out. And Lord willing, you be edified. But we dealing right now specifically with the honor and the mother and thy father, right? According to the 5th commandment. Now, this is what Yahweh was getting on to the Pharisees about. They didn't honor their father and their mother. So it says, why do the disciples transgress the traditions of the elders? For they wash not their hands when they eat bread. But he answered and said unto them, why do ye also transgress the commandment of God by your traditions? And a lot of people do that. Even like our people do that today. That's how you know we are those people. All right. We'd rather go with what our mother and father and their mother and father and their mother. I was taught this when I was young. That's what they say. I was taught this growing up. This is what I was taught growing up. This is how I'm gonna do it. This is what Big Mama taught me. This is what Paul taught me. And this is what I'm gonna follow. That's the traditions of the elders. This is exactly what Yahweh is getting on to them about. But he says, for God commanded, saying, honor thy father and thy mother, which is the 5th commandment in the 10 commandments, if you didn't know that. It says, and it is very important to learn the 10 commandments. Very important. You got to think about it. Imagine you trying to debate a Christian, you trying to cut up a Christianity Christian. And you don't even, he'd be like, okay, so what's the 10 commandments? And you don't know them. You don't know the 10 commandments, but you're trying to tell people to keep the commandments, but you don't know the 10. That's not good. That's not a good look. So it says, for God commanded, saying, honor thy father, thy mother, and he that curseth father or mother, let him die the death. Right? It says, and it tells you in Exodus 20 and 14, I believe that's where the 5th commandment lies. It says that if you honor your father and mother, you will live a long life. Right? But let's keep going. It says, but ye say, whosoever shall say to his father or mother, it is a gift. And this word is a gift. And so it goes back to the word korban, right? In Mark 7 and 11, I'm going to get that right quick. But it says, by whosoever thou mightest be profited by me, right? Because that's what they said. When they would say this is a gift or it is korban, that means this is dedicated to the temple. This is what they were saying, the scribes and Pharisees. When their father or their mother came to them and asked them for help, they would say, I can't. This is korban, which means it is a gift. This is dedicated to the temple of God, right? So that they can be profited by the Most High. That's what they was interested in, but it was all a game though, right? Their intentions and their works, their deeds did not follow behind, right? You know, just like today, like where Jake, he have a pocket full of money and you were asking for something, he'd be like, man, I just ain't got it. We are the same exact people, man. I just ain't got it, man. I ain't got it. So why are you pulling out a pocket full of money then? Because it's obviously you wanted me to see it. But that's how Jake is, man. So Mark 7. So Mark 7 is speaking about the same thing. Mark 7, and I'm gonna just get the point. I'm gonna get 10. I'm gonna start at 10. It says, for Moses said, honor thy father and thy mother, and whoso curseth father or mother, let him die the death. But ye say, if a man shall say to his father or mother, it is korban, which means it is a gift. That is to say, a gift by whatsoever thou mightest be profited by me, he shall be free. So he like, don't do this to try to say, to be profitive of me, because I gave you a commandment to help your father and your mother, right? But you are going with the tradition of the elders, man. You are coming up with things like it is korban, it's a gift, it's dedicated to the temple, right? That's why he says it might be profited from me. You free, you good. Help your father and your mother in word and in deed. Straight up, man. This is what the Lord was telling them. So let's keep going in Matthew 15. So Matthew 15 and 6, he says, and honor not his father or his mother, he shall be free. Thus ye have made the commandment of God, the commandment of God of none effect by your tradition. They went with the tradition. If they said it is korban, that's just what it was. You're not getting anything. And that's sad as hell, man. And that's just like how these people are today. They be rich as hell, but they mama still living in the hood. They got all this bread, but they ain't helping their mama at all. We are the same exact people, man. But let's keep going. It says, ye hypocrites, well did Isaiah prophesy of you, saying, this people draw nigh unto me with their mouth and honoreth me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. So Yahushua getting on their ass, he like, hey, man, this is exactly what Isaiah was talking about. This is exactly what Isaiah was talking about. And we know Yahushua went to Isaiah a lot. And he says, this is exactly what Isaiah was talking about. Y'all talk all this God talk, but y'all really ain't walking that walk, man. This is what he got on them for. Breaking the 5th commandment. But right here in Sirach, it tells you, Sirach 3 and 3, whoso honoreth his father and mother maketh an atonement for his sins. And then he says, and he that honoreth his mother is as one that layeth up treasure. So they wasn't laying up treasure in heaven. Because they wasn't atoning for their sins, because they were simply breaking the 5th commandment by saying it is korban, right? Straight up, simply, man. And it's sad, right? Salakia, let me go back to this. One second. And if you want to, I'm going to keep going on Matthew 15, though. Matthew 15 and 8, one more time. This people draweth nigh unto me with their mouth and honoreth me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. Their mind is far from the Most High. Starting with Christianity, Christian pastors, and some of these Israelite camp teachers. We don't got to go into who and what, but it's everywhere. The point being, it's everywhere, right? Everybody worships money nowadays, man, to where the point where they can't even help. Straight up. But it says, verse 9, but in vain they do worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men, right? And that goes into obeying the church more than obeying the Most High God or Christ, Hamashiach Yahushua, right? Obeying the camp rules more than you obey what the Bible tells them to do, man. Straight up. All right, Khan. So let me go back to this. Salakia. All right, so hey, remember, Yahushua was getting on the wicked scribes and Pharisees, right? So this is what Yahushua told them. Let's get this right quick. So this is Matthew chapter 5. Hey, and always remember, Yahweh Shah is the way, the truth, and the life. Yahweh Shah will show you how to make it to the kingdom. Just read it. He's right there. You don't got to go and look for elders, and you don't got to go look for all that, man. Yahweh Shah right here in this book, man. Yahweh Shah right here is talking to us. And this is what he told us in Matthew 5:20. For I say unto you that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, ye shall in no case enter into the kingdom of heaven. So he says, if you not doing better than the wicked scribes and Pharisees, so you got to sit back and think, man, how do you do better than the scribes and the Pharisees, man? In Salakia, it does not say wicked scribes and Pharisees. It just says scribes and Pharisees. But this is that's what he called them, wicked scribes and Pharisees. But the point being, how do you do better than Pharisees? They was masters and doctors at the law, man. They know they had more fragments. They had more pieces of the evidence of the law than we do now. Esau has a lot of our stuff hidden right now. So how do we be better than them? Let's see what Yahweh Shah said on how we be better than them. Let's go to Matthew 23. Because he says, except your righteousness, and your righteousness goes back to Deuteronomy 6:25, which is the law, statutes, and commandments. Knowing that they were masters at the law, how do we be better than them? Our sinful flesh is way worse now than it was back then. Way worse. There's way too many more things on this earth to be addicted to be attracted to lust after, with the eyes, the mind, right? And the hands, man. So Matthew 23:23, he says, woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for ye pay tithe of mint and anise and cumin, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law. The first one is judgment, mercy, and faith. These ought ye have to done, and not to leave the other undone. You understand that? This is how you be better than the wicked scribes and Pharisees. This is how you be better than them. He says you have to exercise judgment. Now, when you go back to the word judgment, let me pull up my blue letter. Okay, give me 1 second. Let's deal with the word judgment. Matthew 23. Let's see what the word judgment does. So the first one, like you said, was judgment, right? And judgment goes back to justice, right? So it says a separating separation, right? You judging between the two. You make judgment calls every single day when you wake up, right? Am I going to get up at 5 o'clock or am I going to get up at 6? Am I going to wear these blue shoes with this black shirt, or am I going to, you know what I'm saying? But it also goes into damnation, accusation, condemnation, right? A trial, contest, selection. What you going to do? Is black shoes and white shoes. And you got the judgment, an opinion or decision given concerning anything. This is what the scribes and the Pharisees didn't have. They didn't have judgment, right? Did this person do this on accident or was it purpose? They looked at everything as doing it on purpose, and they were ready to stone you for it. It says, like I said earlier, concerning justice, right? You establishing justice. And that's why this world is so out of course, is because the Israelites are the main, they're so corrupted right now. So there's no justice in the earth. It says concerning justice justice and injustice, right or wrong. And we are the ones who was given the Lord's judgment. And look what we do. But it says sentence of condemnation and to a judgment of condemnation and punishment. The college of judges, a tribunal of 7 men in several cities of Palestine, disguised from the Sanhedrin, which had its seats in Jerusalem. We understand that about the Sanhedrin, right? The Sanhedrin is simply a court system, right? So the first one was judgment. Now let's see what the next one was. Right? So the next one was mercy. Like I said, they didn't show no mercy. They didn't want to use judgment and determine if somebody did it on purpose or an accident. If it was an accident, why would you punish somebody the way that you punished them? Remember what the scripture says in Sirach 28. If you haven't read Sirach 28, the Lord says if you don't show mercy on someone, He's not going to show you mercy. And that's me simplifying it. Right? It says mercy. And the word is Elios.
Strong's G 1656. Elios.
And it says mercy, kindness, or good will towards the miserable and the afflicted, join with a desire to help. You have mercy towards someone, of men towards men, right? Like the scribes and the Pharisees. These men were set up to judge the people. They show no mercy. What kind of, that's Esau. That's what Esau did. He shows no mercy. Like for instance, white cops are killing black men on a daily, so-called black men on a daily basis, right? So I know you've seen where the 5 black cops they killed Jake. They killed the black man. Right? They already charged these men with murder. But a white cop, they gonna show mercy and they gonna let them off. But any other nation, they're not doing it. They fired them and charged them with mercy. And charged them with murder. But it says, of men towards men to exercise the virtue of mercy, to show oneself merciful. Of God towards men in general providence, the mercy and clemency of God in providing offerings and salvation by God. So this is the Lord. Even though we don't deserve it, He still showed us mercy through the Yahweh. So how should we be showing us mercy that don't deserve it? And yeah, like, you know, sometimes you're like, man, I don't want to do it. But you got to if you want it. How you know the Lord think like that towards you? How do you know that? So let's get it. Sirach chapter 28:1. He that revengeance shall find vengeance from the Lord, and He will surely keep His sins in remembrance. Right? If you out trying to seek payback from everybody that wronged you and hurt you, the Lord is going to pay you back. The Lord is going to show you vengeance, because that's not your job. In Hebrews chapter 10, it says vengeance is the Lord's. Straight up, man. It says, forgive thy neighbor, which goes into mercy, the hurt that he have done unto thee, so shall thy sins also be forgiven when thou prayest. And this is not always easy. I will tell you that. I will be the first one to tell you that. It's not always easy forgiving someone. But I know you heard this before. Sometimes forgiveness is for you. So you won't be walking around all angry. Like, I'll give you an example, man. It was this one dude. And you know, I'm in elementary. I'm in 3rd grade. I remember my childhood past like vividly. But it was this I was in 3rd grade, and it was this dude, he was like in 5th grade. But this dude would beat my ass every time he seen me. He would beat the man. I'm talking about he would really do me bad. But you know what that created in me? It created a monster, because me growing up, that's all I wanted to do from that point on, is to prove myself. Like, I ain't going that way no more. And it caused me to show so much hatred towards other people when they didn't do nothing to me. All because what that one man did, I created a life long of pain and suffering for other people because of what he did. Didn't show no mercy. All because of what one man did. I grew up, man. I'm still trying to get rid of that part of me. Still to this day, I know we all can, we all can witness. We all can bear witness. We all still trying to get rid of a certain part of you. It don't gotta be the fullness. It's a certain part of you. It's still hindering you in some kind of way. I mean, we all adults, man. I mean, we all know that we all dealing with things. We understand this, right? But let me keep going. It says, one man beareth hatred against another, and doth he seek pardon from the Lord? And the way that the Pharisees was doing their people, it could be considered hatred. They didn't show no mercy. And that's what we read in Matthew 23. He says, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law. Right? You left out judgment, mercy, and faith. And then he says, these ought ye have done, not to leave the other undone. So he says, y'all not wrong for what y'all doing. Y'all just not inserting. Y'all not using judgment, mercy, and faith. Did they do that on an accident? And if it was an accident, you should show mercy towards them. Just like how the Most High showed mercy towards you through his son, Yahweh Shah Mashiach. Because guess what? You don't deserve it. There's a parable. Yahweh Shah even spoke of a parable. That's why his teachings are so important. He spoke a parable about a king or a man, a mighty man who showed mercy to his servant, but his servant didn't show mercy to his servant. And guess what happened to that servant who didn't show mercy? He got condemned. And that's what we read in Sirach 28. That's why Sirach, Proverbs, Wisdom of Solomon, and these are books that will help you with wisdom. Right? The things that the law, that you don't understand the law, they will show you in these books. That's what they're for. Like Sirach chapter 28 and 4. I'm going to keep going. This is verse 4. He showeth no mercy to a man, which is like himself. You mess up just like he mess up. Right? And we know that the Pharisees, the scribes and Pharisees, they messed up too. That's why Yahweh Shah told them specifically in John chapter 8, he said, he that is without sin, let him cast the first stone. And what did it say after that? It said that they were all condemned in their conscience, roughly paraphrasing. I don't even want to roughly paraphrase it. Let me just get it. And I'm going to just get the point. Because I love John chapter 8, because John chapter 8, Yahweh Shah was establishing grace with that woman, with that story of that woman. Right? So John chapter 8, and I'm going to start at 7. It says, so when they continued asking him, he lifted up himself and said unto them, he that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone at her. Whichever one of you niggas have not sinned, throw the stone at her. Now, he didn't tell them not to throw the stone at him. He just says, whichever one of y'all who is not in sin, throw it. Cool, throw it. But let's see what happened. And again, he stooped down and wrote on the ground. And they which heard it, being convicted by their own conscience. And this goes back to Romans chapter 2. Read Romans 2. Paul will tell you, are you going to tell people not to commit adultery and you yourself commit adultery? You're going to tell somebody to do something that you're doing too. That is horrible. I can boldly say that is horrible. It says, and they which heard it, being convicted by their own conscience, went out, one by one, being at the eldest, even unto the last, and Yahweh Shah was left alone, and the woman standing in the midst. So, why didn't they stone her? He didn't tell them not to. He just says, if you don't have sin, throw the stone at her. Exactly. If you don't have sin, throw the stone at her. Yahweh Shah was establishing grace and truth, man. He was establishing grace and he was telling the truth. He was establishing truth, man. That's where we get in Matthew 23 and 23. I'm going to read it one more time. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you pay tithe of a mint and anise and cumin. Right? He called them hypocrites. He says, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law, judgment, mercy, and faith. And we don't even have to go into the faith on the blue letter because we know what faith is. Faith is what you believe, your belief system. They didn't believe in nothing but the law of Moses. They believed in not even the law of Moses. They believed in the letter. They didn't believe in the spirit behind the letter. And that's what this judgment, mercy, and faith is. It's the spirit behind the letter. Precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little. And I'm about to show you with that here a little and there a little, right? So this is 2 Corinthians chapter 3 and 6. He says, who also have made us able ministers of the New Testament. The New Testament, the refreshed covenant. We're not talking about the new covenant, as in the laws written on your inward part. We're talking about the refreshed covenant because in Matthew 26 and 20, I believe, Yahweh Shah says that eat this bread and drink this wine, for this is the new covenant. But it goes back to refreshed covenant because we still have to keep the laws, statutes, and commandments without them being written on our inward part. So we can't be in a new covenant. But did he establish it? Yes, he established it. And we are yet to enter into it. We are waiting to enter into it. All right. So it says, who have made us also ministers of the New Testament, right? We go out there and we preach to them and tell them to repent for the remission of sins. And that's what Yahweh Shah said in Matthew 26. He said, this is my bread and this is my body and this is my blood for the remission of sins. Right? And he says, not of the letter, but of the spirit. For the letter killeth, but the spirit giveth life. And that's all the Pharisees were hooked on, the letter of the law. But they didn't understand that the spirit of the letter giveth life. The spirit of the law, which is judgment, mercy, faith. They didn't understand that. This is exactly how you do better. This is how your righteousness exceed the righteousness of the wicked scribes and Pharisees. Simply by you keeping the spirit of the law too. They only had the letter. They didn't have the spirit behind the letter. That's where they messed up at. So I'm gonna read it. 28 and 4. He showeth no mercy to a man which is like himself, and doth he ask forgiveness of his own sins. And it's a question mark. Imagine that. You not showing no mercy, but you want mercy. It says, if he that is but flesh, right? But flesh. We know what flesh and blood. You read Romans chapter 8, you would know exactly what flesh and blood is. The chains of darkness. You know what that is, man. It's talking about when you want to do something and you end up doing something else. Right? You want to keep the law perfectly, but then you end up doing something else. Whatever it is you do. Whatever it is you struggle with. It says, if he that is but flesh, nor of hatred, who will entreat for pardon of his sins? Remember thy end, and let enmity, which is hatred, cease. Remember corruption and death, and abide in the commandments. Remember the commandments, and bear no malice to thy neighbor, which is hatred. Remember the covenant of the highest, and wink at ignorance. This goes into mercy. You winking at somebody's ignorance. Ignorance means to not to know. They didn't know. That's what ignorance means. And this is something the scribes and the Pharisees, they was waiting to stone your ass. They was waiting to stone you. They didn't care if you didn't know or not. Straight up, man. But this is how your righteousness exceeds the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees. Simply. Straight up, man. So, let's keep going. So the next part I want to get is, but remember, when Yahweh Shah said in Matthew chapter 6, you store up treasures in heaven by simply keeping the commandments. And then we went to Sirach chapter 3, and it shows you when you honor your father and your mother, you make an atonement for sins, and you store up treasures in heaven. That's the 5th commandment. So imagine when you keeping the other commandments. When you actually keeping them. Straight up, man. And there will be obstacles in your way to see what you're going to do. Just like how the Lord put the Israelites in the wilderness to see what they was going to do. See if they was going to complain and they complained and they failed. And look what he did to them. Ultimately, it showed disbelief. It showed disbelief, man. So the next thing I wanted to touch on, man, I wanted to touch on alms. And I'm going to show you why I want to touch on alms, right? Because this is another topic that people do not deal with. You know, brothers do not deal with this topic. And this is a very important topic. And I'm going to show you how it's important, show you why it's necessary, right? So the first scripture I'm going to get is Tobit chapter 4, and we're going to start at 7, right? So Tobit chapter 4 and 7, it says, give alms of thy substance, and when thou givest alms, let not thine eye be envious, neither turn thy face from any of the poor, and the face of God shall not be turned away from thee. Now, when I was saying earlier, because I remember what I said you're not supposed to just give things to just anybody, right? And alms is not always talking about just handing somebody cash. Now, cash is the last thing you probably want to give somebody. Cash is when you give somebody when you just out and you don't have nothing to give someone, right? You can give people alms of your substance, as in clothes. You can give them food, right? You can give them a ride, whatever it is. It's not always cash. And not only that, you always want to, don't be afraid to ask somebody if they ask you for something, don't be afraid to ask them what they need it for. Do not be afraid to ask them what they need it for, because you could be helping a drunk kill himself. You can be helping a meth head kill himself, man. All simply because you thought you was doing a good work by not asking. Straight up. You do not want to be that person, man. Salakia. All right, guys. So let's keep going. It says, if thou has abundance, give alms accordingly. Right? If you have a lot of things, like if you make $4,000 or $5,000 a month, why would you give a homeless person or somebody that needed, why would you give them $5 and think that you did something good? When you make all this money, why would you just give them that? Actually, you wrong for that. You probably did more bad than you did good, because it shows where your heart was. Just like in Matthew 6, where it says, where his heart is, where his heart is, there the treasure will be also. Straight up. So it says, if thou hast abundance, give alms accordingly. If thou hast but a little, be not afraid to give according to that little. Be not afraid to give according to that little, like the woman who had the penny, right? This is why Yahushua stories, the Gospels, are so important. What did Yahushua say about the woman who had the penny? Everybody was giving in alms, that was tithing, and the woman came up and gave a penny. And Yahushua said what? He said, this woman have given more than all of y'all. And they like, what? How? It's just a penny. He said, that's all she have. So she gave more than all of y'all. Straight up. That's why it says, if thou have but a little, be not afraid to give according to that little. Because when people ain't got it, that's the first thing they say, man, I ain't got it. Because they afraid to give according to that little, because they really don't believe they're going to get anything back. They don't believe that. And you can just tell by their works, their actions, their deeds. If you got a little, give according to the little, like the Bible instructs you to. But a lot of people are not going to do that, because they do not believe that they're going to get it back, because they're selfish, they're greedy. It says, verse 9, for thou layest up a good treasure. There that word go again, like we read in Sirach chapter 3, laying up a good treasure. Right? It says, for thyself against the day of necessity. And the word necessity goes back to what you need, the daily things that you need in life. Right? The Lord says that you will, when you give alms according to the little that you have or abundance that you have, it says it lays up treasure for you. It lays up treasure for thyself against the day of necessity. It also lays up treasures in heaven, right? And I'm going to show you why I say that. I'm going to go to Acts chapter 10. Remember, the Most High is watching everything, man. A lot of people just don't believe. That's the problem right there. A lot of people really don't believe the Most High is watching them. They don't believe that. Straight up, man. That's why they do things in front of people, because they would rather people to see. They want people to see them because they don't think the Most High is watching them. So they want somebody to see them. They don't understand the Most High sees everything. They want actual people. That's why you got niggas on. They get on social media. They have a camera in their hand and they will be recording, handing people money. Like the situation with Delonte West. It's been like 2 or 3 people since he's been expelled from the NBA. And if you don't know who Delonte West is, Delonte West played for the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Cavs, and he slept with LeBron James' mama. LeBron James found out about it and got him expelled from the NBA. He became homeless. He became on drugs. And when people start noticing that as him asking for money on the corners, they start recording, helping him. That's just the way the world is nowadays, man. Instead of just helping a man, you had a Jake chick. She recording herself like, yeah, we about to go take Delonte West to go get some clothes. And he just embarrassed, man. You can just see it. He was embarrassed, man. But at the same time, he was trying to be grateful. But that's the society we live in. So Acts chapter 10 and 1, it says, there was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius, a centurion of the band called the Italian Band, a devout man and one that feared God with all his house, which gave much alms to the people and prayed to God always. So that's the trait that we're looking at. He gave alms and he prayed all the time. Alms is very important. Alms deliver from death. Alms lay up treasures. It says, because what is the saying in the world? You give, you get what you give, right? You put negative energy out in the world, you're going to get negative energy back. You put good energy out in the world, you're going to get good energy back. It says, verse 3, he saw in a vision evidently about the 9th hour of the day, and an angel of God coming into him and saying unto him, Cornelius. And he looked on him and he was afraid and said, what is it, Lord? And he said unto him, thy prayers and thine alms are come up for a memorial before God. So a memorial is when you remember something, right? Like Memorial Day. Memorial Day is to remember the veterans who fought in these different kind of wars. That's what Memorial Day is about. It's you remembering the veterans. So he said, thine alms are come up for a memorial before God. The Most High have remembered what you helping him, right? Like Yahushua says, he that clothed them have clothed me, roughly paraphrasing. He that gave him something to drink have given me something to drink also. So he says it's a memorial before God. The Most High have remembered you helping his people, and he's going to reward you for it. Because what did Yahushua say in Revelation chapter 22? And that's another thing people don't want to do is they don't want to wait on their reward. Everybody wants their reward now, right? Like you will have, and this is real, man. You will ask, let's say Jake hit the lottery for $1 million. They'd be like, all right, so we can give you this $1 million in a year, or we can just give you 50,000 right now. But you cannot, that's all you get is 50 or 100,000. Let's say 100,000. You can either take this $1 million in a year, or you can take this 100,000 today, but you do not get the other 900,000. Guess what they're gonna do? They're going, man, give me that 100,000. I'll take that 100,000 right now. They didn't want to wait a year. You know how much stuff you could have put in order while you waiting and being patient that year? You could have put so much stuff in order. You could have established what business, if that's what you wanted to do, where you could have looked at the building. You could have looked at, check, man, you could have checked so much stuff out and got so much stuff in order, but you wouldn't have patience. Right? And look, this is what Yahushua said in Revelation 22 and 12. And behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me to give every man according to his work shall be. Remember, the first works are the commandments, the laws, statutes, and commandments. The same laws, statutes, and commandments that build us up treasures in heaven, right? That we read in Sirach 29 and 11. You store riches, you store treasures in the kingdom of heaven by keeping the commandments. And Yahushua says, when I come, I'm going to reward you. I'm going to give you everything that you earn. And remember, not only just the commandments is your works, you also have the fruits of the spirit, which is your works. You also have alms, which are your works. Those are mighty works given alms. The fruits of the spirit, the law, statutes, commandments, which they all go back to the same thing. You know, alms goes back to charity. The fruits of the spirit, charity, right? But it has a little slightly different characteristics. Nevertheless, you got to keep them, right? So he says, when he come, his reward is with him to give every man according to their work shall be. Now let's see what Yahushua received. This is Revelation chapter 5 and 12, saying with a loud voice, worthy is the Lamb, right? That it says, Salakia, worthy is the Lamb that was slain to receive power and riches and wisdom and strength and honor and glory and blessing. So Yahushua received all of this in his fullness. It says when he returned, it says he had many crowns on his head. Many crowns is him taking down all these heathen nations, right? And him taking down all these heathen nations. Remember, all these nations are not going to be destroyed. So Yahushua is going to have all the riches within these nations. Like in China, they have a diamond, a ruby, sapphire. They have the diamond museum, right? I've seen it. I haven't been there and seen it, but I actually seen it on YouTube before. And they like, it's like a diamond museum. But all of that is about to be the Lord's, man, because he earned it. And Yahushua says when he returned, his reward is with him to give you according to what you earn. Right? And Yahushua also said, you have been faithful over, I'm going to just get it. He says, you have been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Salaki. One second. All right, so Matthew 25 and 23. Matthew 25 and 23. He says, and his Lord said unto him, well done, good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou the joy of thy Lord. The kingdom of heaven was given, it was created for Yahushua HaMashiach to enjoy. Yahushua says, if you be faithful over what I put you over, what I instructed you to do, he says, I will make you ruler over a lot of stuff that was given to me. I'll give you some of it. I'll give you some of it. And when we say some of it, we're not talking about like how, this world is giving you some of it. He says the little things you've done, he's to make you ruler over many things. Man, I want to see what that look like. I want to see what that look like. And Lord willing, we do get to see what that look like. Right? So let's keep going. We got a couple more. So the next one I want to go to, I want to stay in Sirach. Sirach chapter 3, and I want to drop down to verse 30. So Sirach chapter 3 and 30, it says, water will quench a flaming fire. Right? No matter what, it says water will quench a flaming fire. It says, and alms maketh an atonement for sins. Right? So the same way that you would use a bucket of cold water to put out a flaming fire, a house fire, because that's what they use. They use water to put out house fires. He says the same way this water put out these fires is the same way that alms maketh atonement for sins. Alms wipes away sins. We should be knowing more about alms if that's the case. Alms take away sins. We should know a lot more about alms then. All right, but you got to understand, the scriptures tell you, I gotta get this right quick. I have to get this. This is Sirach chapter 12 and 1. He says, when thou wilt do good, know to whom thou doest it, so shalt thou be thanked for thy benefits. So you have to use what we read earlier in Matthew 23 and 23. One of the first word was judgment, right? You have to find people that's actually worthy enough. Would you say a meth head walk up to you and be like, man, can you just spare me, $15, $20 right quick? You know damn well that's how much a gram of meth is. That's not even say a gram, a point, a 0.1, a 0.2, 0.3, 0.4. I know this. I know this from my past experience. If he asked me for $20, I know what you're trying to get. You're trying to get you a 0.2. You're trying to get you a 0.1 or a 0.2. I know this. Right? Because he'll be like, can you give me, $20 so I can go get me something to eat? You'll be like, okay, come on, let's go in the store. I got you. He'd be like, nah, it's cool. I'll go get it. You're not getting anything because I know what you're using it for. That's why the Most High woke up people like us that's come straight from the hood, because we'll sift out that kind of shit quick. You doing drugs, ain't you? We can sift out those kind of things fast. That brother doing drugs. I know if somebody doing drugs. That's a fact. I know when somebody's doing drugs, man. That's not for no reason. Everything you learned in your life is not for no reason. You're supposed to use it for good. All that, selling drugs and, weighing things up, all that, bro, you can turn that into something good, like what I'm explaining to you now. You can use it for judgment causes. Right? Somebody trying to play you, anything, you can use that for judgment reasons, judgment situations, justice, determining if something is right or is wrong. Don't just hand your money to anybody without asking questions. And you can even test them. Right? They be like, hey, man, can you give me this so I can go do this? You be like, nah, I got you. Come on. I'm telling you, somebody's going to say, nah, it's cool. I'll go do it. You'll be like, wait, what? Like, I'll give you an example. So recently, it wasn't recent. It was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I was at Quick Trip, and I was about to go draw some money off the ATM. And Jake walked up to me. It was like 9 o'clock. And here in Tulsa, the buses stopped running at like 7, 8 o'clock, I believe. It was around the time. The buses already stopped running. I know that. So he walked up to me and was like, hey, brother, you think you can give me $5 so I can go get on a bus? I said, the buses stopped running. He was like, nah, there's one more bus that's coming. I said, all right, hold on. So I went into the store to get some the money off the ATM. The ATM didn't work. He didn't know that. So when I came back outside, he was already at another car asking him for money. Brother, if you needed money for the bus, you should have just waited on me and I would have brought it out and gave it to you. You could have hopped on a bus. But that wasn't the case. Only wisdom, judgment will be able to sift out things like that. Why are you asking them for money if I just told you I'm about to come out and give it to you? That's because you're lying. That's not your purpose. Straight up, man. That's not your purpose. All right, so I'm going to read it one more time. Then we can get back on track. It says, Sirach 30 and 3 and 30. Water will quench a flaming fire, and alms maketh an atonement for sins. The same way you put out a fire is the same way you get rid of sins, is by giving alms, man. Beautiful. Let's get another one in Sirach. Sirach is full of wisdom. Right? Sirach chapter 12 and 3. It says, there can no good come to him that is always occupied in evil. We know that. Like I said earlier, there's a saying, you give out negative energy, you're going to receive all that negative energy back. You give out good energy, you're going to receive all that good energy back. Right? But it also says, nor to him that giveth no alms. There will be no good to come to a person that never give alms. That's what the Bible's saying. Alms, alms, alms. We see alms left and right. You got to ask yourself, are you giving alms? You got to ask yourself, are you being taught about alms? Even Yahushua taught about alms. Even Yahushua spoke about alms, man. Let's see. Let's see what Yahushua said about alms. So going back to Matthew chapter 6. Matthew chapter 6 and verse 3. Yahushua says, but when thou doest alms, let not thy left hand know what thy right hand doeth. That means when you give in alms, you don't always got to tell people about, yeah, I just went and gave alms to this one brother. You know what I'm saying? Man, I'm pretty sure the Lord is pleased with me. You don't got to do all that. Just do it and keep it between you and the Most High, man. Keep it between you and the Most High. Straight up. But make sure you're doing it, right? Make sure you're doing it consistently, right? That's what we all should be doing, consistently giving alms, right? But you know, you definitely want to help people that help themselves, man. Right? You don't want to give money to, you don't want to keep giving money to somebody that you know that's gonna go smoke it away. He's gonna smoke until his heart pop, and then you find out 2 months later this man died, and then you understand that you helped kill this man. Straight up. That's why the Bible says when you do good to somebody, know who you doing good to. Help people that want to help themselves, man. I will freely give for brother or a sister paying bills. They broke and they ain't got no money, no money for gas to make it to work throughout the week. I will gladly give them $60 to $100. Gladly, man. With no problem. I don't even need that back. You know, sometimes it's okay to be like, you know, the Lord will bless me. That's fine. Right? And the Lord blessing you don't always got to be you getting money back. It can be also him increasing you with wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. That's a blessing too. Right? So he says, but when thou doest alms, let not thy left hand know what thy right hand doeth, that thine alms may be in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret himself shall reward thee openly. So you will be rewarded here, and you will be rewarded in the kingdom. That's what we just read. You will be rewarded here and in the kingdom, man. How great is that? How beautiful is that, man? All because you keeping the commandments of the Most High God, man. All right, so that's really all I had, man. You know, Lord willing, you was edified. I want to give Kahalo Yahweh, Bahashim, Hamashiach, Malak Yahweh Shah. Shalom. I'm about to say, what?